In terms of product design, it's a very clever thing to have achieved. Tell us, this is a prototype in a way, isn't it? You haven't actually used it yet on men, is that right? But talk us through how you hope it would work and the science behind it.
So, basically, the way I designed it is that new couples, when they find out that they're expecting, sign up to basically a prenatal course. Similar ones exist on the NCT, and they'll receive a kit in which it contains sort of 9 months of a drug called progestin, which we know is the non-estrogen-based birth control pill.
You mean if they were going to do this, they would do that?
Yeah.
Right, yes.
And what that does, at least in women, is convince your body that you're already pregnant. So it changes your breast tissue so that you can store milk. 6 weeks before the birth, they start taking a drug called domperidone, which sounds very scary, but it's actually...
Sounds like champagne.
Indeed. But it was originally used to treat gut conditions, and they realised that it has a side effect, which is lactation. So now it's used by a lot of women who are struggling to lactate.
But hang on, how would either of those drugs, men don't have breasts, how would it enable them to produce milk and express it through the nipple? How would that work?
Well, the tissue is actually there. It's just dormant. So, actually, there are several cases where lactation does occur naturally in men.
Really?
Yes, there's a condition called gynecomastia. It affects 60% of men. Most people never realise that they even have it. But just the oestrogen gets a little higher than testosterone. In extreme cases, men can grow up to the size of a B cup and produce milk.
All right, the key question, what's the point?
What's the point? It's... Because partly, I designed this first as an empathy tool. I was looking at postnatal depression, and I learned so much, particularly that it occurs in men. And the main cause of that is the feeling of being left out. For the main trigger for women is the struggle to breastfeed.
It's sad if a man feels left out because his wife's or partner's breastfeeding, isn't it?
Well, it's not necessarily because they're breastfeeding. It's more, you have things that come into play, things like infant preference. So I read a lot of really heartfelt accounts of, the baby comes home, the dad is all ready to be super dad, and the baby's not interested because the baby's attracted to the smell of breast milk. That's what mum smells like.
It's a very primal thing, isn't it, that connection for that baby? It's about survival for the baby, so they are very connected, and the mother's possibly feeling that too, although, as you rightly say, many mums do struggle. So could it practically be an alternative, do you think, for men to breastfeed? Absolutely.
So I've had a mixed bunch of feedback from this, but it's an alternative option.
OK.
And it's a very practical one that allows parents to bond as much as actually solve a problem.
Is it an option you'd ever take up, Quentin?
Well, I think this is a storm in a B cup.
Oh!
Pardon the pun here. I've got 3 kids, and this is not an urge I have ever had.
No.
I don't know about you, Richard.
Never.
Spencer.
But should you have had? Should you have wanted to?
OK, that's the point that we need to discuss. But if we did a straw poll now, if there's anybody out there who's a bloke who thinks that this is something that is missing in their life, let us know. And I think the results of that will be single figures. I don't think there's a demand for this. I think it goes against the natural order. And the more we blur these distinctions between gender, the more messed up we become. Is this going to make us better, healthier, wiser, happier?
Well, a lot of women have tweeted us to say, basically, excuse me, it's my job. That's my job. And they feel, if you like, gender-threatened. This increasing tendency to try and make us gender-neutral. We're not gender-neutral. We're very different.
Well, you were going to make a point about that, weren't
Exactly.
you?
Well, first of all, I'd be interested to hear your definition of messed up. But also, these gender norms that we put in, well, we put them in. They are artificial. And
well, you just use the word norms, and that's because they are normal.
They are norms, but they also change. Look how much the role of fatherhood has changed just in my lifetime.
Yes, but this is an entirely technologically induced change. This is nothing to do with any kind of natural development in the human species.
Well, all of the hormones that I have mentioned, domperidone and progestin, they're already being used by women. And the changes that occur in a man when they take these is very similar to ones that occur in a woman when they take these, and it's a tiny change compared to the change that goes through a woman's body when she becomes pregnant.
But I suppose the concern might be that throughout human eternity, women's bodies have adapted to that, and actually some of those hormone changes can be very damaging. What would it do to a man? Spencer, you've got a new son, haven't you?
Yes.
Would you ever imagine breastfeeding him?
I have found myself saying to my wife, you know, oh, if I could breastfeed, I'd like to help you, because it is time-consuming and, you know, often Vogue's very tired and there's limited ways that I can kind of lift the weight off her shoulders, I suppose. Whether or not I would be ready to lactate and help in that sense, I think it was just theoretical that I was saying I'd, you know, like to help in that respect. But you know,
You're sitting on the fence, Spencer.
Well, no, I see why it would be attractive for a man to want to help his wife. But then again, I also think that it's a bond that they deserve. You know, I like the way that Vogue had, you know, obviously the whole pregnancy. It's far more hard for a woman.
Okay.
To go through it than a man. And...
At that point, we'll have to wrap it up. At the moment, it's pure theory, but if you have your way, it'll maybe be in place in between 3 and 5 years from now.
Theory with medical backing.
OK.
It's doable.